Hello, dear patrons. So it feels like this question about Cyberpunk versus Angel has stirred up a lot of controversy. So the first thing I should say is that we were very impressed by your commitment and your passion about your hobby, and it gave us a lot of things to think about. There were a lot of very interesting and articulated comments, and it was very instructive for us. So, what can I say about this? Well, the first thing is we're sorry that somehow this stirred up so much confusion. The thing is that, like we said, we wanted to do that cyberpunk project because it was a very good timing for us to do that. And when we saw that strong reaction to it, we thought, okay, well, maybe it's not the right time because as we explained before, this is the time during which the team is mostly on holidays, and so it's going to be hard to manage if there is so much division and frustration around that team at the time. So let's come up with something else, and it created more frustration. So apparently we did very well on this. So what's the point of all this? The first thing that we seen in your comments, whether you prefer fantasy or sci-fi, which was very enlightening to us, is that and I'm looking at my notes here and some of the comments you sent us, and it says, well, basically you should do whatever you like because you should not get intimidated by some of the comments, and you should really do your thing, which is a great vote of confidence for us. So thank you so much for that. It's very appreciated. There were a lot of comments telling us that you liked our style very much, that you think that what we do is maybe above some other of the Patreons that you also like. So it's very satisfying. It's very gratifying for us, and it's very interesting too because basically our goal with this Patreon is to make you happy. That's the only thing we are trying to do, believe it or not. Okay, so we read stuff like, oh, you broke your word and you promised stuff and you don't deliver what you promised and everything. No, this is not what is happening. And I'm going to get back to that in more details in a minute. But basically, what we're trying to do here is just to make you happy. And I think we've did that already by putting a lot of miniatures in a single release, which quite frankly, for $10, it's crazy what we've been doing. Honestly, we've been so excited by all your suggestions for the Thieves Guild, for the fairies, that we couldn't stop ourselves. But from a business point of view, that's not the smartest thing to do for us. Okay, so I think if you look at that, you'll see that our goal is really to deliver as much as we can and to make you as happy as we can. That's why when you sent us tons of comments on the Thieves Guild project, on the Fairies project, whether it was for summer or for winter, we went through all of those comments. We highlighted the best parts and the things that were inspiring to us, and we created each and every character you asked about. So that's for us, that's the essence of what we're trying to do. We may not be able to do that every month because it's a crazy amount of work. You cannot imagine, honestly, you cannot imagine the amount of work we put in those releases. And like, for example, what we did for the fairies, in my opinion, this is the best ever work done by Raging Heroes. Like, this whole set of fairies is something way beyond anything we did before, in my opinion. And we did that because we were driven by your comments and by how inspirating they were, and by your passion about those miniatures. And we've all been in your shoes. We've all been like, okay, I would love to find that miniature that I've been dreaming for years. If someone could do a fairy queen like this, or a thief like that, or whatever, we've been through that. That's, for me, that's partly one of the reasons why I started this brand. I was often too frustrated by some of the things I saw on the market, and I was like, oh, if they had just made that just a bit better, if they had spent a bit more time on this, it could have been so great. So that's the reason why I'm doing what I do right now. And that's what drives me to bring you the best possible miniatures on the market. How can we satisfy everybody? It's not possible. Someone very, very cleverly said, okay, polls are really a problem. Like, if you ask people if they prefer fantasy or sci-fi, and you only get 51% of people saying we want fantasy, well, we're gonna get fantasy every month. And it makes a lot of sense. And basically, that's the very problem of democracy, but that's also the definition of democracy. So what should we do here? Should we stop making polls? From what you say in your comments, strangely enough, it seems to go in that direction. Like, when you say you should do what you like, what you are inspired about. Some of you very nicely said, we are here to support an artist. We are not in a supermarket. We are here to support a team that builds something that we find great. That's fantastic. So all of this seems to go in the direction of let's go with what we have in mind and just do it. And I get that and I understand that. But at the same time, I think it would not completely be fair. And also, I think that your input is very interesting for us. Like I said, the suggestions you've made for the Thieves Guild or the Fairies were extremely inspiring for us. So how can we deal with that? The big question right now is, are we a fantasy Patreon or a sci-fi Patreon? Or both? Should we have one sci-fi Patreon and one fantasy Patreon? Should people who want mostly fantasy should be understanding that sometime we will get sci-fi in between some fantasy releases? How could we handle that and please you guys? Some of you said, hey, it's been 5 months, nearly 6 months already, and you promised sci-fi and we're only getting fantasy. This is unfair. You're breaking your word. You're breaking your promise. Okay, so what you need to understand here is that 5 months, or maybe 6, it's only 5 or 6 releases for us, okay? So if you look at that from our point of view and how we live every day doing that work, the first month have been about getting our feet wet and start understanding everything about Patreon, the Patreon system, the files, what you needed to as information to make this process work and everything. That was the first thing we did. So the pirate release was like our test run. And then the spider release was something that we had prepared in advance because we knew that we would be overwhelmed by additional work that was needed to support the project. So those 2 releases were like made at the same time together, and it was more like one single project for us in the sense that everything was prepared before the launch. And So we really started with the Thieves Guild. Okay, so we could say that our first real project with you guys was the Thieves Guild. Then there was a second project that was the Fairies, and as you know, the Fairies became two releases, because there was so much ideas, so much cool stuff, so much inspiration from you and from us. We said, okay, make it a double release. And by the way, each one of them was already nearly a double release. So it was like a big, massive project. Okay. So basically, you could say that for us, it's been only 3 releases. And we are just starting to get a good feel of how long it takes for us to sculpt the models, what you guys need, what kind of support you need, what kind of information you need. And there's still a lot of things to be improved on our end. Okay, we are really aware about that. So, yeah, it's very early for us to say, oh, we're going to do just fantasy or sci-fi or 2 Patreons or whatever other solutions that we may have. So it's honestly, if you just put yourself in our shoes right now, it's been a very short time. What we said at the beginning was that, okay, in the future there will be sci-fi. That's all that we've said. What we tried to do was to get a feel through various interactions with you, through the polls that we've made about the types of game that you play, what kind of release do you want us to make? And we don't have all that information yet. We still need to talk about that together. For example, if we talk about fantasy, it's a very simple subject. Okay, fantasy. Basically, we are all in agreement that we are talking about something that goes with D&D or Pathfinder or that kind of role-playing games. And just so you know, we've did our research on this. The 3D printing community is much more a role-playing game community than a wargaming community. And the reason I'm saying this is because mostly, and I'm generalizing here, but mostly role players want fantasy and wargamers want sci-fi. Why? Because role players play mostly D&D and wargamer play mostly Warhammer 40k. And I'm saying the word mostly like big, because I know I'm generalizing, but we've been doing this business for 10 years and we have the numbers to back that. Like, if we make a release in fantasy in our regular shop, it will sell much less than a sci-fi release. It's always like that. But here it's the opposite. On Patreon, it's the opposite. Okay? So the thing is that this is a business. Okay? We are investing a lot of money in doing those creations, and it's a tough business, honestly. If you look at how many brands have collapsed since we've launched Raging Heroes, it's crazy. And I'm thinking about some people in French brands that I know and how they collapse one after another. It's a tough business because it's a small business. And so we have to keep in mind that this is still a business. And so we have to find a way to make product that fits the market. It doesn't mean that there is no sci-fi market right now for 3D printing. But we have to keep that in balance and find a way to make this work for you and for us. Okay, so what would be the solution for this? Well, first of all, obviously, we're going to do some sci-fi release. Okay, let's be very clear about that. It feels like some of you said, okay, you could hire more, or you could have another Patreon or something like that. The answer is it's not doable. Okay, it's just simply not doable at that stage. Why? Because we also have another range of products that we are working on, and at this time we are not releasing this range of products on Patreon because it's a different range of products. It doesn't, for many reasons, it's not the same kind of products. For technical reason, for artistic reason, for business reasons, there are many things that make those products different. Same thing, it does not mean that in the future we won't mesh those two range together. But at this time, since for us it's still very early in the game, we cannot do that right now. It's not possible. Why don't we hire more people to do, let's say, a sci-fi version of our fantasy release on Patreon? Okay, it could be possible. The fact is that if you followed Raging Heroes for a few years, you may know that we talked about that many times in the past. When we did our second Kickstarter, TGG2, Toughest Girls of the Galaxy 2, we hired 60 people, 60 sculptors. And in the end, we kept, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like 5 people. And on those 5 people, mostly the one who stayed with us were Andrea and Francesca, who are doing Artisan Guild today. Okay, so and when I say who stayed with us, what I mean is that all the others, we stopped working with them for various reasons. So it's very hard to find the kind of people we need to sculpt the type of miniature we're sculpting, because if you look at the style of what we're doing, this is different, and it's a very demanding style, and it's something that not everybody is able to pull off. Okay, so we cannot hire people right now to do that. Same thing about creating another Patreon. We cannot do that. We just don't have the time and the resources to do that. It would be like overloading for us. So we cannot dedicate all our resources to Patreon. We have other projects. We have games in development. We have our regular releases. We have some Kickstarters in development. We cannot put everything on Patreon. That's not possible. So how we do that? What are the plans? Well, yes, we'll do sci-fi. For sure, you'll see the Cyberpunk release very soon. My take right now, and this might change, but my take right now is that November will be the perfect month for that, because there is the release of Cyberpunk 2077, and I guess it will raise the interest of everybody around Cyberpunk, and so it would make a lot of sense to do it at that time. So yes, that Cyberpunk release will happen soon, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what we do from that. It will be a very good experiment. I hope that it will bring some of you guys who are fantasy die-hard fans into the sci-fi realm and into sci-fi games, because honestly, Cyberpunk is just awesome. And we'll see what we do after that, because there is one other problem with sci-fi, and I started on that earlier in this video, but I drifted off. I said that we all agree what fantasy is about, and mostly we're talking about D&D stuff. But sci-fi, there is so much different style. There is cyberpunk, there is post-apocalyptic, there is anime, there is, well, steampunk, dieselpunk, space opera, tons of stuff. And some of those genres cross and overlap, and some are completely different. So sci-fi means a lot of things. And so we still need to get a feel about that. And every month, this 3D printing market is evolving. More people are coming to it. So it means that different types of people are coming to it, and they will have different needs and different requests. And so we'll see what we do with that. We cannot set anything in stone. Okay, so if I want to go back to that idea of making a promise, the promise that I can make here is that we try everything we can to make something that you will like. That's what we do all the time. That's what we've been doing from the start of this company. But the great thing about Patreon is that there is a very fast feedback loop. And because basically you're giving us feedback while we are working on the project, which is harder to make on some other projects with the traditional way of making miniatures. So this is great. But the other promise that I can make is, yes, well, there will be fantasy, there will be sci-fi. Like I said, we definitely plan to do that Cyberpunk release anyway. And I guess it will be in November, but once again, it could change, okay? And so after that, we'll see what we do. Maybe you'll be so excited about it that will be a second wave of Cyberpunk, or maybe we'll look into a different type of science fiction. At this stage, frankly, it's a bit too early to tell. What we know for sure is that there is some demand for that. We still need to, go and get a better feel. And planning a release, at least for Raging Heroes and Heroes Infinite, is not something we do like that. I do hours and hours of research before doing a release. And then I create some mood boards. And if you want to learn a bit more about how we work, you can go on the Raging Heroes website. And there is a section called How We Work. And you'll see a little bit of the process we go through to create those miniatures. And that might interest you. But this is a very long process. This is not just drawing a concept and sculpt it. No, I spend hours on Pinterest looking for references, trying to find what has already been done in that type of characters and projects. Looking for references in many different things like fashion, architecture, traditional sculpting, comics, whatever. I mean, I don't restrain myself to the pop culture thing. I go everywhere, and it takes some time. So when the reason why we were able to switch from Cyberpunk to Angel is because I already have a lot of stuff about Angels, and it could be switched quickly. But we need some time to develop those projects, and it's not just sculpt them in a week or 2 or 3 or a month or whatever. It's deeper than that. So anyway, what I want to do here is thank you for all this feedback. Okay, it's very interesting for us. Please keep in mind that the only thing we are trying to do is to make you happy and to give you the best possible miniatures. That's our only goal. And obviously, yes, we're going to do sci-fi, but we know that we won't be able to please everybody. That's just not realistic to hope for something like that. So, several of you said, I'm here to support Raging Heroes. I'm here to support their creation. I love their approach. I love the team, the company, how they make miniature and artistry. Keep in mind that more than anything, Patreon is about this. You're getting a crazy good deal on the files that you get, And we are doing that because you are here supporting us. And this is so appreciated. I mean, seeing your feedback, seeing the nice message you sent us all the time, the compliment on our work, all those nice things you send our way. This is amazing. So we're trying to do the same. We're trying to send you back some very cool miniature stuff that we hope you've never seen before, or at least we hope to be able to have a take on those themes that will be fresh and that will make them exciting. And that's what we will do in the future. And I think there's plenty of stuff to be made, honestly. Just so you know, one thing that is very important to me here is that finally, after 10 years of having a company making miniatures, I can make the miniatures that I want. Why? Because with 3D printing, I can make crazy big ass awesome composition that I could not make with the traditional manufacturing technique that we use for making resin miniature, because the miniature would be so expensive that nobody would buy them. So when I make a jean with all those flying carpets flowing around, or when I make that crazy composition of the wild ant running down a dead tree, you know, that kind of stuff, this is what I've been dreaming about for years. And 3D printing let me do that. So you can be sure that in the future, whatever we do, there will be that crazy take. And I hope you like it. So anyway, thank you again so much for your support. We are working on the Angel. I mean, we are nearly done right now. Just so you know, we don't like to put some teasers, because what we do for a release is a whole, okay? Everything is conceived as a whole, and we want you to get a grasp of it as a full project. So showing you work in progress stuff or whatever, it would kind of defeat the purpose of that. We want you to be able to grasp that in a single take. And that's the reason why we present our work like we do. And so we are close to finishing the Angels now. I think it's going to be very cool. It's not going to be such a heavy release as the fairies, as the 2 months of fairies, because honestly we went way overboard and we cannot do that anymore. It was crazy and exhausting and just unrealistic to do that. But it's going to be a super cool release. There is some very nice stuff there. I mean, I've been able to do some characters that I've been wanting to make for ages in a way that I couldn't do before. So I hope you'll like them. And then since to get back to the beginning of this video, a lot of you told us, do what you feel is right. Don't listen to people complaining too much or whatever. We'll get back to you about October, and there will be I don't know, we still have to figure out a few things, and we'll see if we make a poll or not, because we are thinking about different things for October, and we are still a bit unsure of what to do there. But yes, like I said, most likely November Cyberpunk. It may change if for some reason it makes more sense to do it a bit later. But the Cyberpunk release is coming. Okay, guys, I've seen some of your comments saying, oh, I'm so disappointed. I was waiting for this. It was fantastic. We are not dropping you here, okay? Just be reassured with that, okay? That's the message from today. I hope this clarifies some things. I'm sorry for being so long. I'm French, I talk too much. And thank you again for your support. Thank you for all your nice comments. Thank you for sharing with us all the photos of your prints and paint job. You might not believe that, but we don't even have the time to print the miniatures for ourselves. Okay, it's that crazy. We don't have a single print right now of everything that we've released because we just don't have the time. So Yesik and his team are making all the test prints for us, but we don't even have one for ourselves. Okay, that's how much work we put into this, that we don't have the time to do anything else. So anyway, once again, thank you so much. I hope this clarifies a few things for you. Have a great day. You'll have some images of the angels. You'll have the trailer of the angels in a few days now. It will come as soon as possible. Don't get... I mean, I'm sorry if we keep you waiting, but like I told you, this summer time is really complicated to deal with for us, with all the team going on holidays and so on. So please be a little bit patient. It will come in time. Once again, important thing, one last thing. We have not ever promised that you would have the files at the very, very beginning of the month. We do everything we can for that. Sometimes there are problems. Mostly at the time of making the supports, we discover some problems and we have to go back to the workbench and fix some stuff, and it creates some delays. Please be patient with us on that. That's just part of the process to try to give you the best possible product we can. Our miniatures are very complex to support, so because they are so complex in design. So please bear with us. The things will be here on time. I mean, you'll get there during the month, no problem. And what we will do most of the time is to try, when we cannot release all the files at once, we already try to release a few so you can already start working on them. Okay, I've been way too long here. Thank you for your patience and for listening to this video, if you stayed till the end. I hope it clarified a few things for you. Have a great day and talk to you soon, guys. Bye-bye.